Okay. Lloyd, if you want to, do you have anything to present on the computer at all, or is? Okay. Yeah, you could just see if the microphone works there. Is a green button?
How about that?
That works.
Okay, thanks. Mayor Furlong,
Welcome.
thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah,
It's good to be here.
yeah.
You're a good mentor of mine. Mayor Furlong and members of the council, I believe you all have a packet like this. What my intention is to just go through this real quickly. If there's any questions, feel free to ask, and then I'll just open it up to questions along the way. And any questions between that, I'm going to refer to Jill or Candace behind me. Park Improvement Plan established a general overview of our park system and the vision of the improvements to align with the 2040 Comprehensive Plan. The plan provides greater detail identifying and prioritizing capital improvements, providing monetary estimates for the work and timelines. And I'd like again to thank Jill. Jill and I worked on this and she did a great job, so thank you, Jill. Park trails and open space are important facets that contribute to the goals of making North St. Paul a desirable place to live and work. The goals for the park improvement plan are to adequately maintain what we have while making meaningful contributions to strengthen the sense of community in North St. Paul. Our mission, and we worked on this diligently in the last several months, enhance and expand the parks, trails, open spaces to ensure that all have access to quality community facilities, protect and enhance the lakes, wetlands, woods, wildlife, and promote actions, practices, and developments which will sustain the environment. Promote community stewardship through an involved and informed citizenry, and achieve a functional, aesthetic, and balanced park system that is all-inclusive. Next page on park classifications and mapping. What we did is we mapped out each park and figured out what we wanted to do with each of those. Each park is categorized by classifications based on size and amenities, including in the plan are definitions and general improvements made to these categories. Along with definitions, the plan also includes individual maps of each park and full city park layout. We did at a time learn about how these regional parks, because at the time when we did worked with the community, with the Park and Rec, we thought Casey was regional, but at the time we discovered from information from, I think, Candace, you had mentioned that it wasn't regional, based on the definition of what regional was. So we did have some learning along the way as far as what.
Is it regional?
It isn't.
I don't
Isn't defined as regional based on whatever the criteria is for Met Council.
Do we have any regional park then in the system? None?
No.
Not even Silver Lake?
We thought Casey was a regional park because people came from all over, but Candace kindly educated us on how that works. So that's where we're at with Casey Lake, which is our biggest park. Inventory and conditions. The park improvement plan further breaks down each park by category and defines locations, area, amenities, and recommendations for improvements the Park and Rec Committee currently suggests. And before I go further, I'd like to thank everybody on the Park Commission and Councilmember Tim Cole for all their hard work in the last year to get this all put together. Oh, hi, Candace. Implementation, strategy, and prioritization. Along with the prioritization table, the strategy of the implementation stresses the importance of not stretching funds too thinly across the system, but instead making an impact with comprehensive plan projects. This also helps reduce redundancy and makes maintenance much more manageable. Here are our short-term projects, which I believe are with it 1 year. I believe, Jill, with 1 year? About 1 year. We went from, I believe, one year, 1 to 3, and then 3 to 5, and then long-term about 10 years. Notable short-term projects, park signage at the Lions, the Rotary Park, which we've been working with Joe Miller and some of the Rotary people on. Housing park improvements, which would include the tennis court, ADA accessibility between the park playground and the tennis courts, and all the way back down to the ball field and the pavilion. Continued work on Polar Park, which I believe we are almost done with. In the last year, we put that ADA accessible road on the north side, North Road, which accesses all the way to the playground. So I believe that is close to be completed, otherwise it may be already completed. In a downtown park location and working on McKnight Park, specifically, we're looking at something like a water park in downtown North St. Paul somewhere, and ideas have come up at the old gas station on Helen and 7th, and possibly changing that into a water park of some sort, and McKnight Park in the McKnight Park area, which I don't know if several of you have been over there, but the tennis courts are pretty well dilapidated. The parking area is pretty well dilapidated, so we're thinking about doing some long-term ideas to better improve the aesthetics and the look over on that end. Midterm projects. Focus on extending plans that previously developed in short term, such as Northwood. Our liaisons with Northwood have realized that that little pavilion, that ice rink pavilion, is pretty well shot and needs some improvement, or as we have suggested, we take it down and put a new building up there, make it ADA accessible. Also considering trying to make sure it's ADA accessible to the swing sets, because the swing sets over by the water towers pretty much are a hill to get to. And then there's a small pavilion back in the corner, the northwest corner, that right now really isn't ADA accessible, and we were working on trying to improve that area. Plus, trying to figure out what we're gonna do with the hockey rink that pretty much sits there year after year. Conclusion, the Park Commission plan provides general insight into known infrastructure needs, highlights the need for making more significant investments, and improves the need for strategic investments rather than reactive improvements. And I'd like to reiterate, like what Tim said, we at the Park Commission would like to start planning some short-term, working on some of these short-term plans and getting them to you once this gets approved. Our idea is to start working on this, and then once approval comes from the city council on this plan, we can start requesting funding. So I'm gonna open it up to questions.
Curious, what makes a regional park?
A regional park is usually owned by like a regional implementing agency, so it's typically like Three Rivers, those types of agencies, and they have special criteria for the types of elements that are provided. A lot of times you see them, they are a lot of like nature preserves, or they have, you know, something that is just regional, so that you get all across the metro area kind of coming in. So they do have requirements in terms of acreage as well as the types of use and programming for those.
So, like Southwood Nature Preserve, is that?
It's at a much smaller scale, so, but because it's
So
locally
must
owned.
not meet a, what do you call it, the size of it must be.
Correct, yes.
Okay, interesting,
And again, it's run and managed and operated by a regional implementing agency.
got it. Councilmember,
So if Ramsey County owned Casey Lake Park, that potentially could be considered a regional park because it's owned and operated by Ramsey County, in theory.
Potentially.
Okay,
Again, it's kind of small to be considered a regional park, but
so size also comes in,
Correct.
okay. I noticed that there's the Urban Ecology Center that's located behind the school district bus garage, that's included in here, but, and the sign still says PCU Pond, but I know they've changed names since it's Ideal Credit Union, but that, I think on the map that's included in here, it says North St. Paul Environmental learning center, but it was at one point sponsored by Ideal Credit Union.
Oh, the one over by Target?
Yeah, so, and that's not in here. Is there a reason why that one's not considered part of the park system?
It
Or
was, it was our understanding from discussion and, that was not part of the park system.
Because I pulled up the Ramsey County map, and so there's two parcels. There's one parcel that's owned by actually the Watershed District, and that's the one that's off of McKnight Road. But then, you know, it's a pretty large parcel that basically encompasses that entire pond. It's owned by the city. And I know there's no park structures, there's no trails, but there also are no like paved trails in Southwood Nature Preserve. And in that urban ecology center, it's a similar thing. It's just like a swamp surrounding, there's no, I think they put wood chips down. There might be some sort of trail, but I was curious as to why that's not included in here. And the other one is.
And again, that was my understanding, and maybe we have, council would address this, or the park commission, we can address this at another meeting and bring it back to you as far as putting that into the loop, because now it's not listed as one of our parks. And the reason it came up was I was soliciting support for that park for Postal Credit Union was kind of outdated. So, and an Ideal was doing it, so we had brought it up at one of the meetings last fall. And then we had a discussion, and there was some understanding that that may or may not be on our loop anymore, on our radar. So clarification, if we could get that sometime down the road as to whether that should be in our loop again, that would be great. The Urban Ecology Center on the south side by the bus garage would be another area that's kind of sat for many, many years and it's been left forgotten. But considering all the development that's going on in that area and with the bike trails, that would probably be a good idea to start looping something in there. Our biggest objective is to start supplying some sort of park for people in the area of all this development. So we're trying to, like Northwood, even Housie, something downtown, to start giving people something else to do other than just go all the way over to Casey or Silver Lake.
Thanks. Well, and then I don't know what the criteria was for, at the time, Postal Credit Union getting credit for that center, but there's a sign there, and it matches kind of the similar signage in other parks. So, you know, I was always under the understanding that it was a part of the park system because that's how it's being advertised. There's a city sign, it says PCU. It never got updated when they changed their name, but maybe that's because the sponsorship, and I don't know what entailed the sponsorship for them to get that, if they did the annual cleanup in that area, but it'd be just nice to know, you know, if there's a specific reason why one urban ecology center is included and the other one isn't, especially being as that the city owns that land. But I guess the county, it could be maybe the county records aren't correct, and maybe that's all just watershed, but I just pulled this up this afternoon, and it says it's owned by the city of North St. Paul, and it's a pretty large plot of land. And I know a previous meeting, Councilmember Cole mentioned the idea of putting a sidewalk on 13th and possibly looking at doing some trail system through 13th on to 11th, because it just seems like there's a lot of foot traffic there anyway, so it seems like residents in that area are already just utilizing it as a shortcut over to Target, or maybe they're just walking around that area, but it might be something to look into.
I think back in the day, before they did all the improvements, and Ron, Richie, maybe you can give us a little history on that pond, because that was, I believe, when they did Highway 36, that was expanded. And the reason why I think the park system was looking at it is because it's kind of a natural trail. People over in that neighborhood would walk around the park. And, you know, I think we even talked about putting a park bench, you know, a couple park benches there,
Yes.
because it's an overlook. You know, naming it as a park, I don't know if it was ever a park, but, you know, it's owned by the city, but I think naturally, we asked PCU, Ideal Credit Union, back in the day, probably 15 years ago. I think it was a 5-year naming rights, and they gave us $20,000 to have naming rights for that. And that kind of started the park fund. That was the beginning of the park fund back in the day.
And that's how that started last fall, is it became my liaison park. And then I brought up the fact that, how are we gonna do we need to solicit? And this is where the discussion started coming about, well, is this part of our park system or is it not? And it can we, I can suggest we put it on our agenda if you'd like us to move forward with having some discussion with the park commission.
Well, I think that's something that the city would have to,
Yeah, I think we need to gain clarity as to, it's my understanding along with Lloyd's, the communication that we've had from city was that it's not a park. It's city-owned property, but it isn't deemed a park. So I guess we need some clarification and classification. If that's what it's gonna be, then, yeah, it would fall under the Park and Rec.
do you got a history on it at all? or-
Mr. Historian's over there at the mic.
You guys know more about it than I do. I can tell you that we mow it, and our stormwater dumps into there. I don't know if it was classified a park or not. I know that we maintain, 11th Avenue, the boulevard there, and mow around, on 13th and the trails in there, but that's, I don't know for sure if it's deemed a park or not.
No,
Well,
it,
that wasn't my question. All my question was, I'm looking at the park map on page 9 of the park improvement plan. And it says 13th Avenue, North St. Paul Environmental Learning Center. I'm not proposing that we change it into a park. My question was, why is this environmental learning center not included in this plan when this urban ecology environmental learning system is on this plan? It's just, it's on the map. That's all my question was. Why is one environmental learning center listed in your plan, but the other one, according to the map, maybe it's just mislabeled, isn't? That's all. That was my question.
I don't know.
Okay.
Don't have the answer. We can look into it from the Park and Rec standpoint and get back to the send it back to the council if that's what you'd like.
I think it's a city issue of,
Or we just leave it at the city
Legally.
issue.
unless,
Well, I have other questions, so I'm not trying to bog things down here. It was just a simple question of why one is listed as an environmental learning center and the other one is too, and it's not included in the plan here.
And that's the nice part of the whole, getting this Park and Rec, this plan figured out is issues like this that are still floating out there for many, many years that we can clarify and move forward with.
Yeah.
but the Urban Ecology Center has a trail through it. It has a wood
Yes.
trail. It's got a bridge that was built years ago to go across the pond. It is a walking path, and I think it was always labeled that as a park.
I believe you can bike back into there too.
That tire bike, maybe.
But the park, but the bike trail, the Gateway Trail goes right to
It was
the,
right by it.
yes, yes.
Yep.
Well, and Public Works knows they mow it. I used to mow it too. Maybe it's an unofficial path in that park too, because people clearly walk there enough to where maybe it's, we're not putting wood chips down, but there's enough foot traffic there where it's leaving a path. But at any rate, my only question was just, why is one environmental learning center listed in here and the other one isn't? And I guess we'll get follow-up on that. Just a general question, park usage, in particular amenities. So, I'm going to use hockey rinks as a good example. When I grew up playing hockey, there were many hockey rinks. There were several at McKnight Fields. There were multiple ones at the schools. Now it seems like there's just, there's one at Casey and one at Northwood. And that's just evident in that there's less people playing parks. North St. Paul doesn't even have their own youth hockey program. They have to partner with 4 other places. The high school doesn't have a program. They lost their varsity and junior varsity. So there's less people that live in North St. Paul playing hockey. So naturally, there's no need to have as many outdoor rinks because they're not being used. And, it would kind of be ridiculous to kind of utilize our resources to continue to put something up that people don't use. Tennis courts, do we have any kind of handle on how many people use the current tennis courts? And does it make sense to just, a tennis court? And then again, I was gonna bring this up in other comments. It's kind of our city's motto that we just use things and let it deteriorate to the point where the only option is to kind of tear it down and start over, which hopefully we can fix, because I don't think that's a good business practice. But tennis court's a good example. McKnight Fields, how long have those been closed because of the condition? I mean, people haven't been using those as tennis courts for several years, is that correct?
I would estimate at least 5 years, if not more, that they've been sitting
So-
idle because of the damage to them in the
So
safety.
to ask, oh, no one's using McKnight Fields for tennis courts isn't a fair question because it's been closed and no one can use it. But the tennis courts that are open, I mean, do we get, I'm just curious if there's any kind of formal or informal feedback from community that, hey, we use this a lot and it's not being used, you need to fix the tennis court netting or whatever. I mean, is there any kind of reporting on the usage of these types of facilities?
Other than visual, no, but when I go by the, several times a week, when I go by Silver Lake, it's full. And we've also had the request from people to specifically have it be pickleball till, I believe, 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning on weekdays in the summer. I have noticed people using it for a dog park, and hopefully they're cleaning up. But I think there may be a need even on the other end to have Housie reconstructed, because we know that one's having issues, to have pickleball over in that area. Of course, we'd have to have some community input on that because we know pickleball can be somewhat noisy and people are we're having issues with it. But that is our objective that we recognize, especially things like pickleball and tennis are starting to pick up again in this community.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of, my concern again with Housie is that it just has gotten to the point where no one is gonna use it as a tennis court, even though it clearly obviously is. So if we're asking, well, does anyone use it as a tennis court? Well, no, because they can't. So it's not a fair question for us to be asking, well, it's a tennis court, but no one uses it, so let's just tear it out. It's probably not being used because it's unusable because we've let it deteriorate to the point that it is. So that's why I'm asking these questions, if there's any kind of monitoring it. Are you getting lots of feedback from people around Housie saying, when are you guys gonna fix that tennis court? We're itching to get out there to play tennis. Maybe there's a different use, like you're saying pickleball, you're hearing feedback, that's becoming a more popular sport. And my other question was, has there been any discussion about, like a hockey rink at Casey Park's a perfect example. It's just boards around grass. And from my observations, it's used in the winter when the ice is good. And in the summer, it's used as an area where people, let their dogs run around, but that's pretty much it. If it were paved like Northwood, is there any thought or feedback about multi-use? Like you could turn it into like a basketball court in the summer, maybe get more use out of it. You convert it to some sort of pickleball or tennis court, or, people probably don't like playing volleyball on hard surfaces, but something that's got multi-use rather than just, well, here's a hockey rink and that's what it's for. Here's a baseball field, that's what it's for. I've seen ball fields, particularly at Casey Park, because I live right there. And with COVID, with basically no activity, it's kind of a default dog park. People are taking their dogs inside the fenced-in area, and I think that's great because I think that's something too that's been brought up about the desire to have a dog park, but it just seems like we don't have the space, and then there's expenses in constructing one. So the question is, has that been considered about multi-use for one area, like a tennis court, hockey rink, basketball court, where it can be used all year round?
I know we've been working on, Larry Amsden's one of the liaisons, Sarah Zarodka's one of the liaisons, Heather Haas is one of the liaisons, and they've been getting feedback from people, especially Larry's been bringing things to the meetings about people want to get the boards fixed and improve that little area so people can at least play hockey in there. I think it would be an opportunity to figure out what we're going to do with these hockey rinks in the summer, since we have that one and we have Northwood. And I don't know what use they're being used for now, but if we have these resources that we could research in the future. Again, there's going to be cost issues with redoing the boards and so forth. I think pickleball, in my opinion, may not be the option there, but there could be skate park, skateboard park, things like that we could use in the summer. And that's something that we've been looking at with the park commission as to what we're going to do with these hockey rinks during the summer when they're not in use, as opposed to in the winter when we've got some ice skating going on.
I can chime in a little bit too. For instance, if, like on page 38, we talk about Casey Lake Park. And it says, we do recommend that a master plan be created so that we figure out what the improvements should be out here in line with what the community values and what they would, desire to see out there. Some of the things that we listed that could take place is the hockey rink could be, as you see in there, paved for multiple year-round uses. It could also be relocated to a more convenient location for access and orient it north-south so you have fewer issues with ice melting. So those things were taken into consideration. But again, we do recommend that some sort of master plan process be undertaken and working with the community to figure out the details of that.
Yeah, because I don't know, again, just kind of my personal opinion and my uses of it, growing up playing outdoor hockey, it was hard to get 20 kids together at once where you're playing 5-on-5 with 2 goalies and utilizing the full sheet of ice. A lot of times you're up there with 5, 6 buddies, you're playing 2-on-2, 3-on-3, there's no goal, you're flipping the net over. There's other people using the rink as like pleasure rink skating. So maybe it's, maybe part of this is as things change, we look to scale back, and instead of building one large rink, we do 3 smaller ones, and maybe a rink, a basketball court is smaller than a hockey rink. Maybe you situate in a way where the multi-uses in the spring, summer, and fall, it can operate as a basketball court, and then in the winter months, we got 3 small hockey rinks. Just an idea. I mean, I don't know if that kind of input's been provided yet or not, but maybe it's just that hockey's not being played enough, and it doesn't make sense to do it, and we look at utilizing the space in
But
other
I'd be
ways.
curious to see if figure skating and just all-around ice skating, the value that we have with going to these park meetings from May, June, July, and August is we get this great input. And when we have these events that we have, we listen to the park commission members will listen to the people, and they will be comfortable with discussing, hey, it would be nice if we have this here or that there. And then it becomes very unique to their area, and especially with like Housie. It's such a neighborhood-surrounded park, and there's such some potential for things to go on there, but we have to do some research as to what we want to do there. And I know we had talked about with the park commission that we had approved and sent to the city council a while back some funding to do some improvements to the court, but then we had to start working on the park improvement plan. But the amount that we had approved wasn't going to be able to pay the cost of doing the tennis courts, making it ADA accessible. I believe we had to redo the footprint at Housie in order to accommodate the new tennis court and make it ADA accessible, and along with the playground. And then I believe there was a piece where we had to have it accessible down to the pavilion too. So that's a big, large piece in the area.
Councilmember Peterson.
I know the Housie Park, the Pony League uses that in the summertime because it's a smaller field, and my grandson has played on that. And then I think a lot of people are putting ice rinks in their backyard. So I think that detects the usage too, that, not everyone's doing it, but I can probably count 5 or 6 families that I know have a nice ice rink in their backyard, so. That's all I have to say.
I had just a couple more
Councilmember Thorson.
sorry. I had a question here, and this, my personal opinion is that I just kind of view the parks as more of, you guys are looking at the needs of what the parks want, and then you're recommending those to the council, and then we deal with the financing. But it seems like in the past, there's a lot of discussion about costs and things at the park level, which to me is problematic, but we won't get into that. But with that being said, with that discussion of costs, are maintenance considerations ever, I mean, you talk about, well, we want to build a pickleball court and it's going to cost $75,000. But then after, is there, well, and every 5 years we need to do crack filling, and then that's usually lasts 2 to 3 years and they cost this much. Is there discussion to that level of maintenance and continual operational costs for these recommendations that the Parks Commission has when they're talking about costs?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, long-term. And that's where, when we were doing the park improvement plan, we focused in on what we want to do, and then Jill and Candace helped us remind us about, well, you're gonna have this maintenance cost and that maintenance and upkeep and so forth, and who's gonna do that, and where's the money gonna come from? We, with the Park Commission, understand that it's the city council's final decision, but we look forward to starting to make some improvements to the city with some of these parks, and, because I think it's very important that we start moving progressively forward. Councilmember Peterson, I think you got a good point that there's ice rinks around the area and we can revisit. We had closed Housie because there was funding issues with paying somebody to be there at certain times, and it just didn't seem to be fiscally sound to have somebody sitting there and it wasn't being used. But that was, 5, 6 years ago. Now, things change, and I'm noticing people are involved more with ice skating, and like you said, these ice rinks are coming up. Maybe we need to revisit this.
Well, I mean, again, my opinion is that parks should focus on parks and recreation and make recommendations to the council, like say, hey, we desire a new park structure at Northwood Park. We've done some research, here's some options, and then we take it from there to say, okay, let's establish a budget and things like that. But I get that's traditionally not how things have worked. And that was just my question of, do we look beyond the initial just cost to build it? Do we consider the ongoing maintenance? Because, this idea of a water park has been talked about for a long time, kind of unofficially, and then you mentioned it here again tonight. I didn't specifically see anything in this document in reference to that. But to me, that, as a council member, I look at, and we're talking about multi-use and things, we're experiencing a rather longer winter. It just was snowing yesterday. Typically in Minnesota, you're lucky to get 4 months of really nice warm weather, maybe if you're lucky, where a water park would actually be used. Just the construction of a water park in itself, I'm sure, is expensive, and then the maintenance and upkeep of it is probably very expensive as well. So to me, that just seems like, I don't know what's driving that. If you have some, I know there was a park study or a survey done like a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. I don't know if we ever got the feedback from that, and I think a water park was on there, but I don't know if there's just this force here within the city demanding that we do that, and that's why you're looking into it. But to me, we have these broad, it's highlighted in here, a lot of different things in a water park in downtown, too, of all places. I was just talking to the Public Works Director beforehand. We're talking about difficulty they're gonna have with these new construction projects, the apartments. They don't have a place to store snow anymore where they traditionally did. There's just no space. And now to dedicate something in downtown to a water park that potentially could only be used 4, maybe 5 months of the year, I mean, it just kind of seems like a stretch to me. But I guess that's, something we'll look forward to seeing the Parks Commission bringing forward to the council, a recommendation on what that might look like.
that's the glory with us being able to choose the opportunities that we want to move forward and have them researched. And I understand that, Carrie, it was, there's a possibility of water consumption decreases. So, and we found out about that, I think in December or November, about when we were bringing up the water park, that there may be an issue with water park or water consumption issues. So at the time when we were looking through all this, we thought, wow, this is gonna be a great idea, we can move forward. But the park commission members are realizing that we come up with the ideas, we present them to the city council, we present them to the city. How feasible is this gonna be? Is it gonna work into our budget? And what's gonna be the best thing moving forward? And I'm not sure, but I'm thinking that down the road, we may have to reevaluate that. Is that appropriate to be able to reevaluate this? So they've come a long way in learning to understand. Again, Candace and Jill and Lisa Ritchie have helped us learn to grasp. This is, when I first started, this was a one-page agenda, and we were done in half an hour. Now we've strived forward, and the baby is starting to walk and run, and it's exciting. And then COVID hit, and we had to adapt to that. But we're trying to move forward, and we realize that this isn't going to. The bigger we get, the more we're going to learn, and the harder it is to be able, with fiscal issues, to get everything we want right away. So we're just going to prioritize what we want, and that's what we've done with the Park Commission plan, and send it to the city council, send it to the resources and tell us, well, this is how much it's going to cost, and let you guys decide. And if it doesn't work, then we just move on to the next thing and try something different.
That's all I have. Thank you for answering my questions. I appreciate it.
I hope that helps.
And I think the Park Commission too, brings new ideas, brings the trends that are out there, things that, maybe worked 20 years ago, doesn't work now, and it's, there's new ideas, new types of things. Pickleball, who would have heard of pickleball 10 years ago, 5 years ago? Now it's in every neighborhood and streets, and, so it's being played different than tennis, but you can repurpose tennis courts for those, which is nice.
Or when we build the tennis court down the road, we turn it into pickleball like we did with Silver Lake.
Right.
Turn it into pickleball and tennis.
Any other?
I want to thank you. I think it's a very good report.
Thank you.
You staff and other commission, make sure that gets told to them, because I know when I was on the commission for a long time too, we were always kind of, discussing things, and then, we want all these wants. It's just, it's the fiscal. Yeah, we have to be fiscally sound.
Yeah, and we're learning.
Oh, the water park, isn't it going to be like a splash pad?
Yeah,
It's not going to be a water park.
it's a bit more like a splash pad where it raises up. So the ideas were there. I think the primary thing is a park, something downtown with all the new people living down there.
And I would say, Housie Park being as close to the downtown, it's a big park over there, where I think that might be a natural pathway to Housie. If people walking their dogs downtown, will probably be walking towards Housie and using that park, kind of a downtown park for right now.
Yep.
We don't have a downtown park.
May I ask the projection of timeline as far as how soon this would be approved, so we can start working on funding? And if it's okay with the council, we want to start giving you ideas, working on which ones we want to move forward with, and once it gets approved, start requesting funding. Is that okay with the council and the mayor?
Yeah, I think we get this thing approved as soon as we can. I'm surprised it's.
Do we approve it?
I think we do.
Do we?
Mr. Mayor,
Okay.
City manager.
thank you, Mayor and council members. We were hoping to bring this to the next city council meeting, I believe on May 3rd, as a regular agenda topic, to approve the park improvement plan,
Okay,
Can I ask the city manager a question?
go ahead.
of course.
Is this supposed to be reviewed by the planning commission, this plan? And it already has? Okay.
I don't know, it was a formal review, right? Okay.
Okay, so that's been done already, okay. And what meeting did that happen at? Do we know?
I don't have the exact date.
December,
It was like December.
November?
It was, yeah, it might have been November or December, because then I believe it was the January meeting, we went through all of their notes.
Okay.
Because I want to say it was November, because normally the Park and Rec doesn't have a December, or was there a December meeting, Lloyd, so we could get, so the document could be prepared for the planning? It's during the holidays.
It was, we had a December meeting because the information came back from WSB, the adoptions and the changes, and we wanted to be able to review them and take a look at it. So yes, we did have a December meeting on the beautiful 65-degree day that we had that day.
Okay, so that's already been, okay, I must have missed that. Usually I review the minutes of the parks, or the planning commission, but I'll go look back and look.
And we on the Park Commission, that's another learning piece that we found out, we understand that we're gonna present things, but that doesn't mean just because we at the Park Commission present these, they don't have to go through other hoops. They're gonna have to go through several hoops, especially if we start building things or moving things. Even the Boy Scout project we had to have the Park and Rec, or the Planning Commission, the inspectors improve one of the scout projects because of all the building that was gonna go on. So it's a learning process, but they're doing a really good job, and I want to commend every one of them on the commission for all their hard work in the past several years. And thank you, Councilmember Cole, and again, Candace and Jill and Lisa, and everybody on the council for listening to us, and we'll move forward.
It's a good group of people.
It's a great, yes,
And back in the day, there was no park fund.
no.
Now you're able to plan, which is nice.
Yeah, we're learning what dedicated money is, and we're learning what park fund money is. And we just want to make it a better improved city, and there's a lot of opportunities to do that, but again, fiscally, we're going to have to recognize,
And like you say, with the growth of the city, there's going to be a lot more need for the parks.
yes, absolutely.
Councilmember Cole, anything?
Yeah, I want to build on Lloyd's comments. Just a huge round of applause to the Park and Rec Commission. The dedication, the time commitment, the additional meeting that was held to get this done, the sheer amount of frustration that took place in that room on multiple occasions. You've got a committed group that definitely recognize the importance of parks within a city, and that it becomes an actual selling point to the community to gain new development, to gain new residents, et cetera. Just the fact that it's now started and created, this improvement plan becomes really a fluid document now that we have something here, and we're not going to wait 10 years before it gets looked at again. I believe it's a goal to review this on an annual basis, and priorities changed. We've learned a lot through this process. I found out that WSB has a spiffy little tool that can draw a circle around the park and determine the demographics and the needs, and so that we can, take a look at the age of who's living around the park and be better prepared to make recommendations. Is this, for lack of a better word, a toddler park, a teen park, an adult park? And to be able to help guide the Park and Rec to be able to make the right decisions for the right areas as well, where I think we've just kind of taken a scattered approach, and it's like, we need a playground, and let's put in a swing, let's put in a slide, and now we're able to utilize the information that's provided to be able to get that where it is. So, again, huge round of applause to Lloyd and the whole commission for getting this put together.
They're an awesome group. They're an awesome group. And Councilmember Thorson, just to touch base on community input, that just dawned on me. We're getting requests from community people about, Casey Lake and the issues with Casey Lake and the drainage over on Margaret. And when it hits the park, They call the city about the park commission. So we've had meetings about things like that, and then we funnel it into wherever it's gotta go. But people are seeing, oh, well, something's going on in the park, why is the park commission doing this?
How are you addressing the activities?
The request,
And I would say, music in the park now, getting out of COVID, are you going to be starting to do more activities? The Easter egg hunt, the Starlight or Star Watch,
Star Watch is on,
Fire and Ice.
Fire and Ice is coming.
The 3 bands are already booked for
Yep.
concerts in the park, and those dates are already set.
I have talked to Heather about expanding that, and she's okay with it because I think I've had requests from people just in conversation as far as, hey, can we have more of these things? Can we have more of them in different venues? Which would mean we're gonna have to have more people, and I'm all for working with that and setting it up, but I wanted to make sure Heather was okay with it, and she said, yeah, she's okay with it, not this year so much, but in the future. The Trick or Trail, that we are working on tweaking a little bit. It seems like every time we have an event, we have 15,000 or 1,500 people.
I was going to say, wow.
Ask the unofficial bunny here. The first year, we had 1,500 people. We may have to look into charging fees just to have some of these programs. But we're a very big growing community that's going on in the city, and the houses they're on the market and they're selling right away. And we got a lot of people saying, hey, can we do this? Hey, can we do that? And they're loving all the little events we have. The parade downtown, they love having that back. We get feedback from that just at the park commission meetings.
Yeah, and I'll address it during commission reports, but the EDA is moving forward towards green space in downtown where there's an existing parking lot today, and so I'm excited about getting Movie on Main back on the calendar for the Park and Rec. That was a huge, huge success.
And moving it down a little further. But, yeah,
Moving it away from the band.
yes. A logistical issue.
The band was right there, and the
Oh,
screen was right there.
oh, yeah.
The band was playing, and the music was playing, and the movie was playing, and
That was not a good night.
that wasn't a good night, but it was a learning lesson.
That was a learning lesson.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Lloyd. I appreciate it. You guys do a good job, and your leadership moving this forward. Thank you very much. So, anything else for? Thank you. Lloyd?
Thank you.
Huh? Thank you.
Awesome job.
Thank you.
I don't know if Candace, if you wanted to add anything more to it, you're welcome to, but. You're good? All right. Good, good. All right. Our second topic, the community center, and city manager, I don't know if you want to chime in on this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. So, as you know, I'm under the weather, so I'm doing this remotely so I don't spread my germs. So thanks for allowing me to do it this way. I'm going to give you some background and facts. Most of this you know far more about than I do, but just as much for people at home to hear. So the community center building was built in 1992. Originally, the city, it housed city-sponsored recreational programming. The programming, gradually got reduced year after year until it eventually halted altogether in 2013, at which point a hockey business went in there to do some programming related to hockey training and practice. And I think they did a little academic work with students that were in their programs as well. Sometime, 5 years ago or so, Kokoro Volleyball became a sub-tenant of the hockey arrangement. Eventually, the hockey arrangement left, and Kokoro became the primary tenant. The building houses a number of other things as well, though. Since 2005, it's been the location of a branch of Ramsey County Library. It also houses some public things. We have a major fiber optic hub at that location that Metro INET, our service provider at the city, they provide services to other cities as well. It's a major hub there and pretty significant improvements related to that. We also have an electric generator that is not attached to the building, but a lot of the controls, the wiring, a lot of the components to that generator are housed in the building. So this 30-year-old building, quite frankly, just hasn't been maintained over the years like it should have been. And there are a lot of items that could have had their lives prolonged by maintenance that now just are in need of total replacement. And the price tag is getting pretty steep. I've got some repairs in here that we're aware of in the memo, and I'll just run through them really quick. The roof, the estimate we've had is $660,000. That's for the entire facility. Tuck pointing the brick. There's some issues how the roof interfaces with the side of the building, and that's caused some damage to the mortar, I believe. And Public Works Director Richie is here too, so he can provide a lot more detail about this stuff than I could. The ephes needs repair. The ephes is like the kind of fake stucco that's on the outside of the building. So the brick was $555,000. The ephes is $140,000. The flashing around the windows, that's where a lot of the leaking. There is a lot of water intrusion there that happens either because of snow melt or during rain events. So that's coming in at the windows and flashing. That's $234,000. We put in interior repairs of $200,000. That's quite frankly, that's a guess. We pulled that out of the air. I wouldn't want you to put too much stock in that number. The rooftop HVAC, which serves the gym, is $200,500 to get the parts we need. The issue with the parts is because of supply chain issues, we really needed to order those, quite frankly, probably weeks ago, and we have not yet, I don't believe. And then there are common area boilers that provide heat to the rest of the building. We're just unsure of if there are repairs that need to be done with those. Excuse me. So when you add all this up, the things that would need to happen right away are the roof and the HVAC for the gym area. If those don't happen, I don't think we could really even get through next winter. If you remember, Public Works Director Richie was up on that roof. He can tell you how many nights, if I had to guess, a handful of nights, at 2:00 in the morning when he gets a call that there's problems. So he was out there a lot. And like I said, I just don't think we can get through another winter without doing those two items. So that's $1 million just to do what needs to be done to help us, as I say in the report, limp by. I'm not a fan of limping by. I'd like to have a long-term solution. To me, the long-term solution of this to do everything is more in the neighborhood of $2 million to do everything. We don't have any money identified for this. So I'm not anticipating we're going to come up with any solutions in the next 32 minutes, but I did want to talk through some of the ways we could think about using the building. So maybe I'll just halt there for a minute and see if people have questions about the needed repairs or the history before I move on to some of the options.
I don't think I have any questions on history, but Councilmember Thorson?
Well, I mean, I think it's an omission, but, if we're talking about the history of the building, the first tenant was the school district. And they were in there, let's see, I have a copy of their lease.
And I wasn't aware of that.
Well, I mean, it was adopted on March 13th, or March 5th of 2013. I remember that because I was on the council at the time, and at the time, Councilmember Furlong made the motion, and I seconded it, and everyone voted to approve it. And at that time, they engaged in a 15-month lease at $2.50 a square foot. They were paying $5,416.16 a month. And then at year 2, or after the 15 months, it was bumped up to $3 a square foot, so $6,500 a month. I don't think they made it to year 2.
Just to clarify, so you're talking about ISD 622?
Yes, it was, they were the first tenants in there after, well, and to go back, I think it's also important to kind of, the context of the history of how we got here. It was back in 2010, 2011, there was kind of the financial crisis. We were facing some budget cuts, some serious issues, and this was, there was an internal study done. It's called the North St. Paul Community Center Economic Assessment. It was done internally by staff. The staff member that did that cited his sources, and they include WSB, Tyson Croup Elevator representatives, our own electric department, Burwald Company. There's just, we have the report, and it's, it was done internally. They specifically talked about deferred maintenance and referenced a lot of these items you're pointing to here. And the cost estimates at the time were kind of right in line with what we're coming up with now. So this has been known about for well over a decade. So that's, why are we here? Well, we're here because the community center, we thought served a purpose. It didn't fill that purpose. It just, there was no demand. We closed it because it was far too expensive, and now we've been trying to figure out what we're gonna do with it, and initially it was renting it out. In the last, negotiating with our current tenant, there was great concern over market rate. We're not getting market rate. Well, we're getting the closest to market rate we've ever gotten, and if you look at the history of our previous tenants, that shows that. And the whole reason why we went through that whole discussion in the first place was because we originally looked into fixing the roof. I believe it was in 2016, and the current tenant approached the city and said, well, wait a minute, before you go and invest a bunch of money, I've got a proposal. I'm interested in buying the facility, and I want to expand. I want to build up. And so that makes sense. Why would we invest $1 million to fix the roof when potentially someone might buy it and then just tear it all out? I mean, and that's where we've got into the negotiation, and nothing, the council voted it down, but meanwhile, throughout that process, I was asking questions about these costs, and we were told various different things. Flat out that this assessment that we did wasn't accurate, and that none of that, it was kind of, no, there's no deferred maintenance. And in fact, in 2019, when we got our own appraisal, it says on page 7, and this is the appraisal that we got ourselves. The building is well maintained and shows very little evidence of deferred maintenance. Photographs and building sketches are attached here within to further identify the subject. And we were using this information to base our decision on whether or not we're gonna sell the building. There's also an incorrect figure in that assessment in that it's stated on page 5, gross annual income, $336,000. We've never gotten that amount of money. The most money we ever get is $12,500, 12 months, $150,000 a year. We don't collect utilities either. Ramsey County pays they're supposed to pay $1 a year too. That's in their lease, 20-year lease. And I think that's a big item too we need to discuss and resolve, because there's all these questions about, well, when does the lease from the library end? And obviously, when we had discussion about closing the community center back in 2010, 2011, that became a concern, and rightfully so, for the library, because they were committed to a 20-year lease. And the fact that the city was closing it put that into question. And so what had happened, from my understanding, is we lost the contract, we lost the resolution. I don't know how that happens, but the city at that point, and I have a copy of it here, sorry, bear with me here. We decided at that point to extend the lease, or we redid the motion because we lost the contract, we couldn't find it. So in 2010, we redid it. And I have a copy here. I know I forwarded a copy to the city manager. And it's dated and signed by Victoria Reinhardt, Board of Commissioners, 9/28/2010. But then our city manager at the time didn't sign it. It's dated May 2nd, 2013. And so I don't think there's any dispute on when they moved into the building. And I actually have a copy from the Ramsey County, their original resolution. This is dated January 27th, 2004, okay? And they're referencing dates in 2003 when they chose to close the old library and sell it. They took occupancy in 2005. I don't think that's in dispute. 20 years from there is 2025. But because we lost the resolution when it was brought up, I'm assuming by Ramsey County, hey, what's the status of our lease then? If you guys are closing the community center, we need assurances that you're gonna hold your end of the bargain. We chose to renew the joint agreement, and that's where the discrepancy is now. Is it 20 years from that date, which was signed by Ramsey County commissioners in 2010, so 20 years would put it out to 2030? Or is it the last date, but our city officials signed it, which was 2013, that would push it out to 2033? So I think the first step is to kind of figure out, well, when does that lease end? Because no matter what we do, we have to honor that lease to the library, because if we break that, unfortunately, we have to reimburse them for not only the construction costs at the time, which in their resolution, they estimated it to be around, well, it was $517,899, but also their books and their computers and their technology. So their grand total is $749,889. The number that's been floated has been $750. So if we say, sorry, Ramsey County, we're tearing the building down, we'll give you time to move out, we're gonna have to reimburse Ramsey County $750,000. There's no dispute on that. The tenant who's currently in there, who's made multiple proposals to the council to buy the building, has explained where he's arrived at those numbers. Deferred maintenance is a huge factor. And there seems to be discrepancy with what the council was being told by staff at the time and reality. And now we're seeing a report, and the city manager just said, yeah, we've had deferred maintenance on this building, and there's no denying it. The roof is leaking. These things, you have to maintain them, and if you don't, their useful life shrinks down. If you don't change the oil in your vehicle ever, there's a good likelihood that the engine's gonna seize up. So I agree, it's unfortunate that we have not maintained this building, much like we didn't maintain the buildings at Casey Lake, much like we haven't maintained the structures at Northwood Park. It makes it hard for us to make decisions when we're only left with, when we need to tear it down and build new. And to me, we've already made the decision to close the facility because it was underutilized. There's all sorts of fitness centers. I believe part of this study referenced that at the time in 2012. It's on page 5. At the time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, there's 10 different fitness centers within a 4-mile radius of the community center, the Maplewood Community Center being one of them. I know for a fact there's more than that now. These apartment buildings that are being constructed have their own private fitness facilities in them. I can see the entrance to our own private fitness facility right here in this building that only has access to public employees, police, fire, EMS, and staff. I mean, I don't know what the final membership numbers were at the community center when it closed, but I want to say it was around 60 people. I mean, what if we open that up to those 60 people? Would they be interested in coming and using this during the day? I don't know. But if that's the drive and desire to, I'm not even gonna say double down, I'm gonna say go all in and say, let's invest $2 million in this facility and bring it back as a community center, a fitness center. That's just crazy to me. That's not being responsible. I know some people have said this is an asset to the city. I think it's a financial liability, because as we've just got done hearing from the Parks Commission and all their hard work in putting together this park improvement plan, this isn't something that they're saying, yeah, we need about $5,000 here. They're talking millions of dollars, and I agree, we need to continue to invest in our parks because they're so important. This, we have a clear out, and I'm a little disappointed that this isn't listed here as an option. We're told there's 3 options: repair existing, demolish, or partial building demolition. What about selling? We can still sell the building. We've had 2 offers, one for $1.5 million, the last offer, $1 million. Now, instead of being out $2 million, we're up $1 million. That's a $3 million swing. And we also haven't talked about the fact that this building has never been on the tax rolls. So if we sell it to a private entity, the building goes on the tax rolls. I pulled up a building appraisal that was, or a comparison that was used. Our, at the time, interim finance director and the city attorney, they sent up a letter. It was dated October 1st, 2021, to RT Lutzek Kokoro Volleyball, talking about the long-term lease and their justification for raising his rent 92% to $24,000 approximately a month, plus common area maintenance and other fees. They used a warehouse right behind, it's right across the street here, the charter school. I call it the Upper Atrium Building, that's what it used to be called. That parcel of land, I just pulled up the property tax statement. It is, where is that? Somewhere here. Well, I'll go off of memory. They paid in 2021, $96,000 in property taxes because the value of that parcel, according to Ramsey County, is $2,750,000. Of that, $13,900 something went to the city. That's what we got. In 2022, it's been appraised at over $3 million. They're gonna pay over $100,000 in property taxes. That city portion is set up to $17,000 now. So if we sell this property, not only do we not have to concern ourselves with how are we gonna fund this and how are we gonna maintain it continuing on, the reason why it's gotten to this point, we don't have the staff and we don't have the funds to do it. I'm sure if we did, we wouldn't be here talking about this now. But that's the reality, and I don't see that changing in any time soon. If we hire 1, 2, 3 more employees, that's still not gonna change things. We shouldn't have our public works director up on the roof, 20 below out, trying to get the furnace going multiple times. It's just mind-boggling to me that we're even gonna consider continuing going down this path when we have a clear out. Sell the building, use the proceeds towards our park improvement plan. And the other thing too that's missing on this, and we haven't really discussed it, but it is discussed in our assessment here, is the parking lot, okay? the parking lot in 2012 was estimated to cost between $329,700 and $753,890. And there's a little asterisk next to it. This cost range to repair the parking lot is based on different repair scenarios provided to the city from WSB in 2010. So at some point in 2010, the city had discussion about, boy, this parking lot is getting bad. We need to do something about it. Let's get a weighing range. Low end, 330,000, high end, 750,000. Now, we did do some maintenance to that parking lot. I don't know what year it was. I know it wasn't like a mill and overlay. They laid, or maybe it was. I guess I shouldn't say that for sure. But again, that's kind of coming up on a concern, and, you know, that's not being included in this estimate. So, you know, I know I kind of jumped ahead here, and the question was, what's about the background and the facts? But I'm tying this all in because I don't think the council has had the full facts and a clear understanding of the background on this facility. I think we made a decision in haste in that we decided not to sell the building, not knowing the full picture and the path forward on, well, if we're gonna keep it, what's it gonna cost? And now we're being told we're gonna have to spend $1 million, and we need to know 2 weeks ago, because like everyone, we're facing shortages in materials and labor. Our tenant's here, and he's, you know, expressed that he's gonna be moving into another community, which is unfortunate, because also, the other thing to it, you know, I appreciate the time here, I'm gonna wrap it up here, but the EDA made a recommendation back in 2018 or 19 that they supported the council selling this building. I was in that meeting. I didn't have time to pull up the minutes to quote it, but it happened. I asked the question, does the EDA, and at the time, the Business Association representative was also there, they all supported the decision to sell the building. They thought that's in the city's best interest. To my knowledge, they haven't gone against that. That's still the recommendation. And, you know, as far as economic development is concerned, I mean, this is the type of business that we would be hoping and praying that would come and locate here. They have a business where thousands of people come to our town weekly, monthly, whatever your statistics are, you've shared them before. And they're here, they drop their children off for hours at a time. Some of them live long distances away. They look to spend time here. Restaurants, antique stores, bars, and, I mean, we have it here, and now here, this is the type of business that just, again, I just struggle to understand why we're telling them no. And so I hope that, you know, obviously having half an hour is not enough time. I've taken up 20 minutes of that time, and I'm grateful for that, because I've been wanting to have this conversation this way for a very long time. We finally got it on the agenda. We're clearly gonna need to continue to talk about this, but the problem here is we need to make a decision. We can't just say we don't know. That's why we're here. We're here, we got elected to make decisions. And so this idea that we're just gonna sit on this clearly is not an option. Laid out by the deferred maintenance items that need immediate attention. We don't have the luxury to sit back and try to make up our mind, because unfortunately, there are other businesses that are relying, excuse me, on that facility immediately. The library, our current tenant, excuse me, who's also expressed he is willing to extend beyond our lease this 1 year. We've seen that there doesn't necessarily need to be a drop-dead date, the liability behind this. You've been in this facility since 2017, operating under an existing lease. where was this concern about liability back then? I mean, it's just kind of weird how it pops up all of a sudden, but that's done and over with, and I'm glad. So I'm hoping that, you know, we can continue to have these discussions and that this isn't, the door is not shut on this. I would love to hear our finance director's opinion on what he believes would be the best interests of our city. And I'd also love to hear our public works director, who's basically the default maintenance guy, on what's your opinion on ongoing maintenance with this? Is this something that we should consider doubling down on?
Well, what I just wanted to say for the roof and for the units that we have on there, the problem or what we're up against, the units we know from 2 different vendors, they're 9 months out if we order them today. So, and one of the furnaces up there is running on half of what it is right now. So even if we made a decision right now today, it's 9 months. And back when in the fall, when we were looking at getting foam for the roof out there, insulation, they were a year out on the insulation. So what my concern is right now, you know, for the tenant that's in there, for just the constant water coming in there, the furnace not working, you know, just us having some type of a plan. I mean, it's important that I have some type of a plan because before you know it, we're gonna be right back into the cold weather, you know, and we're in a building where there's 100 people in there and they're wearing stocking hats and, you know, in the middle of playing volleyball. So this is like, we just can't kick the can down the road anymore. It's what's happening, the leaks, the cold, the no heat, it's real. It's happening, and it's to a point where I have to go face the tenant and say, I don't know what I can do for you right now. So, I mean, we need to figure something out, and it's you know, something that's been going on for a long time, but yeah, we need to do something.
And I know that to some of you, this feels like rehashing things, or that I'm like picking at scabs or something. But we really do need to, you know, it's a pressing situation that we need to figure out a solution to. I don't have all the facts. I don't know if any of us have all the facts. But, you know, I'm new to the scene. I know less than most of you. But I think just talking through what some of the solutions are, you know, the idea of putting 2 million into it, and, you know, granted, maybe we can get it done cheaper than that. I don't think it'd be a ton cheaper, but, you know, if we have some local folks bidding, and maybe they're giving us a break because they're local people, certainly that could cut the cost a little bit. And so if we're talking about $1.5 million, $2 million to upgrade, to bring the community center up to speed, you know, in the grand scheme of things, I don't want to, you know, act like that's not a big deal, but when communities do community centers all the time, those are numbers that wouldn't be considered astronomical. You know, we're considering a $9.9 million general obligation bond at the regular meeting for streets. And I know we consider street improvements every year, and those are ongoing costs. So the price tag alone isn't something that, you know, scares me. It just has to fit with the long-term goals. I wouldn't want us to spend the money unless it fit with the long-term goals and unless we thought it was sustainable. And when I say sustainable, I mean from a programming standpoint. Programming is the thing I'm most worried about. Having sustainable users in there year after year, that we can count on providing service to the community.
Well, we got about 4 minutes. And I know this is going to be an ongoing discussion, but it sounds like, you know, the need right now is that roof and that furnace. I mean, that's the two biggest things right now, you know, and I think that we need to give the okay to go ahead with that, to make sure that we do have a roof and a furnace. I mean, it's always in the cost of the building, but Councilmember Cole?
I cannot go ahead on anything until we have an understanding of what our commitment is to the library. that since in my short tenure being on council, I asked the city manager at the time, I asked the interim city manager, and I've now asked John, I need to understand what our liability is to the library. One, it's an asset to the city, and I do not want to see it leave. Two, to Scott's point, if we sell it for $1 million, we're on the hook for $750,000 back to them. The city nets $250,000 on a $3 million building or whatever the numbers have been. If we're looking, there's just, I cannot vote for anything to approve a penny until I understand what that is.
That makes sense. So we need.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think that that's an issue that is as much legal as anything else, and I need to work with Soren on that. I don't know lease law the way he does, and when the lease is considered to have started, I don't know the answer to that. The question's been asked of me, I just don't know the answer. Soren and I will just have to work through it, and ultimately it might end up being our best guess, and until something's litigated, and I hope it wouldn't come to that, but you might not know the answer for sure. I don't know if, I don't want to put Soren on the spot, but if he had anything to add about the lease obligation to the library.
He's
I
not,
didn't prepare for
Soren.
that.
He's out in the hallway.
Oh, okay.
one last quick comment, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, and I've said this before, and I agree with Councilmember Cole, that yes, we have to get that understood. And I would think the best resource would be reach out to Ramsey County and say, how do you interpret this? Do you believe your lease is till 2033? And if they say yes, well, then we clearly know where they stand. But this idea of the absolutism that if we sell it, it's our building, we own it. If we sell it, we can sell it contingent on the whoever purchases it honors the lease, whether it be 2025 or 2023. That is a negotiable condition. So this idea that if we sell the building, the library's out, and now we add a front 750 is not necessarily a foregone conclusion. It's a negotiation stance, and the tenant who's offered has said he's open to extending that lease or honoring the lease. So I just want to make that point clear, because I glazed over that one on my 15 minutes or 20 minutes here, that it's not an absolute. Selling the building does not absolutely mean the library needs to relocate and that we are on the bill to reimburse them $750,000.
So real quick, we got about 2 minutes, RT. I want to get a quick update from you in regards to, not about the facility or anything, but what your plans are, because you gave us, end of the year, but what's the update from you?
Thank you. So where we are right now, we are still in the building process. The timelines, as you can hear from Ron, are getting pushed back. We can help you in this sense in that, hey, we can stay until probably June, no problem. And even if our building is done in March or April, we'd honor that through June. Very simple.
Okay.
So we can certainly move that to help you guys out. Because as I saw in this, this still requires a lot of work. And even if you do decide that you're going to, let's say you decide to demo it. Okay, well, you continue making money, because what I didn't see, and John, help me out if it's in there somewhere and I missed it, but the current operating costs of the building, and that in relation to what we actually pay right now, I think there's still some profit in there, or at least some money that could be used for deferred maintenance. And you can save that money and then apply it to the demolition. You're basically just saving yourself money by having us stay for a little bit longer. And but anyways, yes, we're looking at April, June, somewhere in there. We'd be happy to extend till then. That's not a problem at all.
I appreciate the update.
So, yeah, thank you.
Right, thank you. So at this time, we're going to, we'll adjourn the workshop, but I just want to know that this is going to be an ongoing discussion moving forward. John, do you have anything else to add?
No, I appreciate that this is something you guys have been talking about for years and years, and you've got a lot of information on it. I'm I'm new to it, and so I appreciate your patience as I get up to speed. And these meetings help me do that, so thank you.
Okay, good. So at this time, motion to adjourn? Moved by Councilmember Peterson. Second by Councilmember Thorson. In discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll take about a 3-4 minute break. Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This time, Deputy Clerk, if you could take the roll.
Here.
Councilmember Peterson.
Here.
Councilmember Wong.
Here.
Councilmember Cole.
Here.
Mayor Furlong.
Here, quorum is present. At this time, motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved, Your Honor.
Moved by Councilmember Peterson,
Second.
second by Councilmember Thorson. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. This time we have a presentation. I think they're all out in the hall, not knowing that we. So I'd like to welcome everybody. It's a beautiful day. Sun was shining. So we have a presentation, Century College, 916 Student-Built Home Interior Design Group. And this is always one of my fun nights because my daughter is a interior designer. Yep. So I used to listen to her presentations when she was at school. Welcome, Tom. You got the floor.
Yes, I appreciate that, thank you. So I guess tonight I was just going to give you an update on the project and then turn it over to Eric Layett, who will give us an update on the communication with neighborhood. And then after that point, we'll turn it over to Catherine Harrington and the interior design team.
Good.
So home's going well, even given the struggles of the current building industry and what we're dealing with. Had some of the suppliers that we've always used in the years past back out. Not so much because they don't want to do the work, they physically can't do the work. So they're getting so overwhelmed with work right now. So a good example of that would be the drywall. The gentleman called me, which was awesome, and said he just can't do it. So I got on the phone and contacted my builder friends, and within a couple of weeks, we had somebody out there. So it's moving along, a little bit slower than what I anticipated. The initial date I wanted to have the open house was mid-June. I need to push that out to like mid-July, just because of product availability and people. And so I had the last commitment last week with our friends from Hardcraft, and so they want to supply all the mirrors and shelving pro bono. And their nearest install date they can guarantee me is July 6th. That's how far booked everybody's out. So that's kind of where we're at with the building. We started exterior finish today. Siding will be coming in a week. As far as the inside goes, the home is completely drywalled, and they sprayed textured the ceilings yesterday. They should be in tomorrow to sand, and then they'll start doing interior painting after that. And everything's ordered. I have to order stuff. It used to be like 2 weeks. Now it's like 2 months in advance just because of the supply chain issues. Yeah, it's really crazy. So before I turn it over to Eric Layett, are there any questions for me?
Have you had a lot of people asking if they could buy the house?
One gentleman.
One gentleman.
Yeah, but I told him we take Visa. I mean, we're fine. We're fine with that. So there's been interest. The neighbors have been really supportive, and so there's a gentleman who lives down the street. He brings us donuts every couple weeks.
Oh, nice.
And then Bill, who lives down the street, I actually knew his brother. I didn't even know they were related, and so he stops by once in a while. So and there's another gentleman who lives further down, and he's a retired carpenter from Carl Sanderson, and he thinks it's a good deal. The city and the schools are partnering up, taking which was a problem house in the community and making it into something positive.
Right.
So from my exposure with the community, it's been really good.
Good.
Yeah,
Councilmember
I
Peterson.
stopped there today. I wanted to take a peek, and it's shaping up, and those kids, they're out there, weather, with the bad weather, but it's
Yeah.
looking good. So if it's another month, that's okay.
Okay, I appreciate that. So
Yeah.
I try to hold to my due dates, but sometimes things are out of my control with that. Other good news, we haven't had any vandalism, no theft of materials. So that's been good, and it's going well. And so we're trying to control even material waste. I think I just got my first dumpster in there for the drywall. And otherwise, we've been, well, the donut story is a little bit more in-depth. And so the gentleman that gives us donuts, we box over scrap wood and he burns it in his fireplace or something like that. So good community outreach, I guess we'll go with that one. Yes, Scott?
One question. You're saying that July open house is kind of pretty much everything's done. When do you anticipate it listing, and then what do you anticipate the listing price to be?
I'd say we could probably start listing it early, just to spark some interest in it. I would say the sale price, I've been talking to some of the builders that have been out visiting, and they're looking at this house going $410. And I'm like, I'm still thinking $380.
Okay.
And the budget I had set up is like $340, $350, somewhere in there, so hopefully it's a profit. Well, it will be a profit to the city to invest in other properties, and we just keep this thing going. You know, I
Right.
think the goal here is to not lose money, provide an educational opportunity, and improve the community of North St. Paul.
All right,
So
I
think we
appreciate
hit all
that.
those.
appreciate that. Any other questions for Tom? If not, is it?
It's probably mine, I forgot to pick something up. So I'll turn it over to Eric Late. Yeah, I better answer that one quick.
Hi, everybody. My name is Eric Leah. I'm the proud assistant principal at the 916 Current Tech Center. So I know we had some concerns about the neighbors. I've been emailing them every week, giving them some tentative updates and when certain noises that are outside the normal are going to be, and I haven't heard any complaints.
Eric, I've heard so many compliments about your updates and getting the word out there, so I appreciate that, and
All right,
yeah,
good.
hopefully that's kind of put a blanket on
All right.
any kind of,
Good. I mean, I don't know if they email you directly, like, oh my gosh,
No,
I
nope.
had no idea, and I invited.
you're doing a great job.
Thank you. I invited them all tonight to see it, but, you know, that's the way it goes. So, all right, with that, I'd like to turn over to Catherine Harrington. She is the interior design instructor, professor at Century College. Are you-
Catherine, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us here again. My students have worked hard. We just have a class of 4 this year, which kind of makes decisions easier, but makes harder work for everybody. They're Alexis, Karen, Shelby, and Rebecca, and they'll be presenting. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about this project and how much I think it benefits everybody. First of all, it certainly benefits the city of North St. Paul. And our collaboration with 2 schools that we collaborate with, 916 and the St. Paul College students, the people who end up buying these houses get, just as I say this every year, such a little jewel and gem of a house. You know, I've seen Tom, last time we were out there at the house, and Tom was with his students out there making them undo something again because it wasn't quite right. So you know everything is done right and sturdy and square and good in these houses, and they're a one-off. You know, they're not a kind of a whole development full of the same
Right,
thing.
right.
The cabinets, same thing. These are custom cabinets that these folks get, and they're done well, and they're beautiful, and the finishes are beautiful, and so they end up with something that is really something special, and we are so happy to be involved. We figure our part of this is work within the budget, which is always quite small, and try to make the whole house look kind of richer than it is. And we hope we've done that, and we'll talk about what our thought process is and what our plan was, and we've got a little PowerPoint, and I do have a few copies if you don't have quite enough, but if you want to kind of look at it.
Get the podiums, move those right behind, because our camera's right there.
Okay,
Oh, go ahead, we can share.
okay.
Can you see it? And we do have a digital presentation available. I don't know if we're able to share our digital presentation. Okay, can you show how to do that?
The city's website, northstpaul.org. Okay. Do I need to connect to Wi-Fi?
Is this your first presentation in front of a city council?
Yes.
It is, it is? Don't be nervous. So my daughter graduated from NDSU in interior design, and she now works in Austin, Texas for a architect firm and does a lot of commercial. She loves it down there. So. And she just got her license. So she's a certified designer. I don't know the term of it, but it's their, yeah, yeah.
I know ASID is kind of our overriding organization. I don't know if she belongs to ASID, but
I believe she does.
ASU College is in our, I don't know what they call it, I can't remember now, but they're together with us in Minnesota, so we meet with their students once in a while. Good school, good.
Yeah.
We're getting there, we're getting there.
Right, right. Well, we never have problems here, so.
Students know more than I do.
It's always unplug it and plug it back.
Yeah, on and off. Yes. Yep.
Just don't touch that screen there because it leaves a mark. We can't figure out how to turn it off.
When I first saw it, I thought it was a golf club or.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah, we can't figure out how to turn that function off on that screen, so just don't touch that screen. You make it worse. We gotta unplug it later and plug it back in, maybe.
okay, are we ready?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, well, so we are calling this project the Urban Cottage. So our urban cottage design focuses on comfort and relaxation that you think of when you hear cottage, while possessing elements of modern elegance. The design focuses on organic colors and materials to nod to a biophilic aesthetic, which means bringing the outside in and feeling connected to nature. We have created a furniture plan for the house to show potential furniture arrangements. So here is the main floor. Can we see the mouse moving? I don't know. Okay, perfect. So this is the entry here. So as you walk in, there are some stairs going down, but you can make your way through. There will be some room to put maybe like an entry table or whatever, you know, hang your keys, whatever you need. The living room can seat at least 6 people, probably more. We'll make our way into the kitchen here. Very large island, 6-foot island. We have a pantry here, and then we can make our way back to the dining room. And then there is also access to the backyard through a slider here. As we make our way back through the hallway, there is a laundry and a mudroom space. And further down the hallway, there's the first bedroom. There's a guest bath, linen closet, and then the owner's bedroom, including a very large walk-in closet and an owner's bath. And then if we make our way all the way back down to the lower level, large family room, big enough for a sectional, whatever the family or who new home buyers want to put there. There's bedroom 3, and then bedroom 4, and then a 3/4 bath, mechanical, and then storage space, which is really nice for a house this size to have that storage.
A big size house. How many
Yeah, it's
square
good
foot?
size.
Do you know how much square foot it is?
13?
square footage is 2,500.
Oh, wow, I was way off. All right, you want to talk about the exterior?
Yeah.
I'm going to pull that microphone down. There you go.
All right, so starting with the exterior, we enhance the curb appeal by incorporating shake siding and to bring the front to the character and timeless look. We use really rich brown earthy tones, and then we added 2 light fixtures, modern light fixtures on the exterior, both sides of the garage. The front door is that beautiful green color to bring that earthiness tones back in there. We can see the hardware, black, aged bronze, and then we move into the siding, I guess. It'll touch the shakes, and then we have the siding on there as well. Moving into the entryway, we have over here, we have some really nice luxury vinyl plank. It looks almost just like real wood. And then we also have a beautiful pendant lighting in that entryway. And then moving down the stairs, there'll be carpet down there. But the wall color is a lighter white, kind of Greek villa is the color. And then the trim work is all repose gray. Right there. Yeah.
Do you mind if I stand here and?
Nope.
So I can point to different things? Okay, so, we are moving on into the kitchen, and so we're trying to create flow and consistency, and so we're gonna have this wood floor carry on through to the kitchen. And then, from that one board, which you just took down, there was a light fixture that had black metal and some brass in it, and it had some beautiful lines that were circular. And so that will tie in with the lighting that we have here, which is really nice because it relates. This is not a side view, but these are actually circular, and there's going to be circular bulbs. So it's nice because they relate, but they don't look like they came from the same, kit or whatever. So that just kind of helps elevate the space. The focal point of the kitchen is the island right here, and so you'll have the light fixture hanging over it. And then Contract Interiors donated this countertop, and it's really beautiful. It has a lot of granite countertop, but it has a lot of movement, and so it really is eye-catching, and so that's the focal point. And then to bring the urban cottage feel, we chose a shaker-style door, and we kept the uppers in the light color right here, and the lower cabinets in the green. So to bring in that organic feel. We kept the lighter on the top just to keep it more, open, fresh. That way you can be in the living room and have a little more versatility with how you decorate that area. Bringing in the brass again and cottage themed, these poles are very cottage style. And then we, around the perimeter, we went with Formica black countertop, and it has just a little bit of a cream colored veining in it, so it doesn't compete with the island. And it also provides contrast for the backsplash that is here. And this is the tile that we're going to use. And the tile actually, each piece, there's some variation in it. So what we're trying to create is a texture versus a pattern. And then we are mixing some metals by incorporating stainless steel appliances. And staying within the budget, we were able to get some great pieces. Our favorite is the oven. It's a slide-in, and so it kind of gives it more of a custom feel. And then we've got these French door refrigerator with a freezer below. And
What do you mean a slide-in oven?
Slide-in. So typically, like a bottom line appliance would be, like you put it in, but you would see like a panel that kind of juts up above
Okay.
here.
Oh,
Whereas this is more seamless.
okay,
It's clean line and looks custom built in.
okay.
And it has, the refrigerator has water filter in there inside. And then this is the faucet for the sink. And then this is our pantry. This is another showstopper too. Actually, the plan originally called for just regular doors on a closet. And so we were lucky to be able to incorporate this. There's actually 4 different cabinets to be able to open and see all of your food items.
Can you reach and grab everything?
These ones, you might, on the upper cabinet or shelves, you might need
Little,
something.
okay.
But, because they're 9-foot ceilings. But you should be able to reach the lower cabinets here.
Okay.
Moving on to further into the home, into the bathrooms and the bedrooms, we have continued with our layered lighting of both brass fixtures and black fixtures. In the guest hall bathroom, we've decided to hang pendants down because it's pretty narrow and it was hard to put sconces on the side, which is actually the most optimal for lighting in a bathroom, is to have the lighting on either side of your face instead of above. So we decided to hang them from the ceiling so that they hit on the side. We are incorporating our same kind of biophilic green theme, and we chose another version of a green for the walls in the first guest bathroom, I guess we're calling it. And we're using a luxury vinyl tile, which is kind of this gray wood tone in that bathroom. Black fixtures. In the guest bathroom, we also, Contract Interiors also donated another slab of a type of granite. It's more of a gray kind of speckled granite, and we'll use that on the vanity. And then the bedrooms will be carpeted, and we have chosen a semi-flush mount with a drum shade to kind of elevate the lighting in there. Moving on into the master bathroom, it's a double vanity, and we have chosen sconces to flank both the mirror and in the center, again, for the optimal lighting. And we've chosen this kind of brass fixtures in the master bathroom so that it's got a little bit of a different flair than the other bathrooms. And we chose a stained vanity in this kind of wood tone, and the walls in there will be light, and the flooring will be the same as in the other. And I believe we are using part of the kitchen island slab for the vanity countertop in there, so that elevates it a little bit and makes it a little different than the other bathrooms.
Okay, moving back to the mudroom and the laundry space. On the original plan, there was just like a standard closet in that space. There's actually two closets, and we opted to get rid of the larger one and put in this mudroom bench to give the homeowners a space to sit down, take off their winter boots in the winter, just have somewhere to, sit down, put your things, and then storage as well. And then in the laundry space, just right across, in the same room, but across from the bench, we opted to stack our washer and dryer to give us room for a utility sink. And then we're also gonna have the same Formica top as the kitchen in there around the sink. And then the color is gonna be this repost gray, which is gonna be the trim and the doors throughout the whole house, so that'll be in there and kind of give like a richness to that room. And then as we move down to the stairs and downstairs, it says carpet on the stairs and then throughout the whole basement. This is gonna be the light fixture for the bedrooms. And then the downstairs bathroom, we wanted to add something special in that bathroom to kind of give the basement, something special, right? So we chose this vinyl, it's just kind of like a sheet vinyl, but it gives the look of tile, like almost like a marble tile. And it kind of has that like classic vibe to it, so it kind of brings in that cottagey atmosphere. And then we're gonna also use the same deep green as the kitchen, so we're repeating that down there. And then we've paired it with black fixtures to kind of give it that modern vibe. And then the countertops are gonna be the donated stone from Source.
Very nice.
And I think that is it.
Wow. I tell you what, whoever buys this house is going to be so lucky, because if you go to buy a house nowadays, I mean, it's like you say, it's cookie cutter. Every house has kind of the same fixtures in it, and you've got designers that design, and your input is worth a lot of value into that house, because I could never do that. I'd be, Yeah, I'd be at Menards picking out just a regular light, and so what's the hardest part of designing? Is it trying to get within a budget, or what would you say?
I think, you know, a budget obviously plays a huge role because there are so many options and there's such a wide range of selections out there and price ranges. I don't know, I guess the hardest part, I guess, would just be picking from all the different options.
I would say having a more limited budget was actually beneficial, because then you didn't have so many choices.
Yep.
It's big enough that we could do some fun things with.
No, you guys,
This house every year is we get either donations or really, really good pricing from all the vendors that we go to. And because Tom and I are in the business and in the world and do this, we have contacts. And over the years, I've been doing this now 40 years, and so I know some people. And so I say I have this class and we're doing this, they're all about it. So we get donated countertops that are really well priced, things that wouldn't normally be in a house, you know, in this price range. So that's really lucky for this project. But yeah, it is, any budget is hard to stay within. And then we have 5 of us actually trying to make these decisions. So, you know, design by committee is always tough. So, but I think ultimately with all the wrangling and all the talking and all the deciding, and this is what I think, and we come out with a better project because everybody, you know, and then there's some cooperation and collaboration that has to happen, and ultimately in the end, it works in the favor of the whole.
kind of sounds like city council. So yeah, no, I appreciate that. Like I said, whoever gets that house is going to be in for a treat.
Absolutely.
It's,
It's not only is it beautifully well-built, the quality of what goes into it is good, and then we hope our selections add to that feeling of, like, we keep using the word elevating, but looking a little bit richer than it is, which
Right.
who doesn't want that?
right, right. And thank you for all you do and your team and being a part of this program.
This is one of my favorite classes. I love this class. It's just a lot of fun, and it's an actual project. The students get to go see it, you know, when they have the open house. When you're in school, you don't get to do that. It's all pretend.
Right, right,
So this is good for them too.
right, right. No, that's good. So are you guys almost done with the program then, or you at the tail end, or is this the end of the pro?
Yeah, they should be graduating. This should be one of their last classes. They can't take it till they're done with all the rest of the classes.
Okay. Well, good. Congratulations and good luck on.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for letting us come and do this.
Oh,
It's also
we love it.
great for them.
We love it.
The experience is fantastic.
This is,
When you work this hard, you want to show it off.
right. And it's like you say, that product is now in that house.
Right.
Where I know my daughter, when they did their practicals, or whatever, it was more or less,
Yeah, you know, to actually do something and have to stick to a real budget and have to work with real stuff.
Right.
Not just stuff you find online someplace.
right, right.
It's good all around. It's a great project and a great opportunity. So
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you all, and good luck. Tom, do you have anything more to add? Can you tell us why you had to move the washer and dryer from one side to the other, or?
It was more of a visual thing, and so when you were standing in the living room, you would be looking at the washer and dryer. And so we kind of wanted to not look at that, so we flipped them around. We were always gonna stack them to get in a laundry tub, a place to wash up a little bit. And stacking them where the initial location wouldn't work, because on these front loads, the wash machine has to go on the left. If you stack them, the door would open up backwards for you, so then obviously it was the switch balls. And now you're looking at that nice custom-made bench seat instead of a washer and dryer.
And again, I can't tell you the value of having someone in there who cares to do something like that, because that just brought another element to that house that if you didn't have done that, they would have been looking at a washer and dryer sitting in the living room. So, yeah, a lot of value there. Eric, thank you for all your help and appreciate it. And we'll see you down the road for the open house. Take care. So at this time, I have another presentation, a proclamation for Arbor Day. And let me pull it up real quick here. And this is Arbor Day proclamation, whereas in 1872, the Nebraska Board of Agriculture established a special day to be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can be a solution to combating climate change by reducing the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heating and cooling costs, moderating the temperature, cleaning the air, producing life-giving oxygen, and providing habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now therefore, on behalf of the City Council of the City of North St. Paul, I, Terrence Furlong, Mayor of the City of North St. Paul, Minnesota, do hereby proclaim Friday, April 29th, 2022 as Arbor Day in North St. Paul, and I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And be it further resolved, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Signed this 19th day of April 2022. So that is the Arbor Day proclamation. And we have the consent agenda, which is the April 5th workshop meeting minutes, the April 5th regular meeting minutes, the general claims, the HRA claims, the building permit report for March, the resolution approving acceptance of donations received March 2022, revising the staff complement and expenditures in the 2022 budget related to the human resources manager/assistant to the city manager, RMS user agreement between North St. Paul Police Department and Ramsey County Attorney's Office, squad video camera technology conversion, bucket truck purchase, open position on alternate to the Minnesota Municipal Power Agency, MMPA Board for North St. Paul. Item L was taken out. M is special event main drag vintage and collectibles sidewalk sale. Special event Fallen Angel Tattoo grand opening. And the last is the special event for Max Diner grand opening. At this time, council member can take an item out if they do want to do so at this time. If not, motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Wong,
Second.
second by Councilmember Cole. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. This time the meeting is open to the public, and I do have one, and that is RT. Welcome again.
Very quick update for you. Season's coming to a close for the regular club season. Going down to nationals here, coming up again. It seems like it was yesterday that we were down there.
I was going to say, is it Florida or?
Yep, back in Florida again. And camp is ridiculously well attended. Numbers are up there. Our program is growing. We added boys. So boys volleyball has started, that was like 3 weeks ago now. So that's continuing to grow. We look to have teams for that next season. That said, we're still here, you guys. We're still here. We've been walking this path for the past 3 years together, and it's been challenging at times, but we're still here. And if the city were to be interested in selling the building, we're still here. Does that mean we might have 2 locations? Yes, it does, and we're okay with that. So just know that we're still here. We're here to walk this path with you guys as you continue to move down it. Our only concern right now, as you heard from Ron, is the heat, and that is on a timeline. And the fact that the city does know about it, and we could run out of heat, like that's a concern. So I would, and I completely sympathize with Councilmember Cole, and not wanting to approve anything without more concrete information about the library lease. I get it. That said, I mean, we know the heat is 9 months out to get that repaired. So that's my only real concern right now. I mean, come October next year, when the heat needs to be turned back on, if it doesn't work, we're going to have some issues. So getting that resolved as soon as possible would be greatly appreciated. And that said, I mean, if we're not going to sell, and like I said earlier, if we want to just move that down, give you guys some more time, we can certainly do that too. So we're here to walk that path with you, and we have been. So thank you.
Great.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. So at this time, anybody on Zoom? Nothing on Zoom. We have no public hearings. This time, the city business action items and recommendations. We have 2 items. One is set the sale for the $9 million general obligation bonds, and the second one is concurrence of bids and joint powers agreement with Maplewood for the aerial street and utility improvement project. So at this time, I think, Morgan, are you? Oh, Dan. Dan and Morgan, just Dan. So Dan, I'll turn it over to you, and
All right, thank you, Mayor, council members. I know it's tough to be excited about going out and selling almost $10 million worth of bonds, but actually there's a story behind this, and it actually is pretty exciting. If you can remember last year as we were going through the budget process, we made the decision to call some bonds. We made the decision to restructure some bonds last year. What that all did was that actually reduced our debt levy for this current year of 2022. And in addition to that, it opened up some capacity of approximately $421,000 on an annual basis, so we could actually go out for a bond this year. So, I know, in spite of everything, we were looking at about a $9.2 million issuance, well, total project cost, using ARPA funds of approximately 1.3, bringing it down to an issuance of 7.9. We're sitting at about $2 million higher. I think we're facing the same thing that everybody is, and that's inflation. And costs are rising, and we're also dealing with the rising of interest rates. And the feds are talking about, you know, a number of upticks that they're looking at throughout 2022. Good news. We still have very good interest rates right now. We got out, good planning. A lot of credit has to go definitely to this city council for the site and the planning of taking care of these projects that were on the top priority. In addition, the great work that SB has done, particularly Morgan and his whole entire team, in helping to develop and to move fast and trying to get specifications out so we could get out on the street and get bids. Morgan will talk about one of the bids that has come in. But more importantly, the bids have been coming in very favorable to the city. If you remember, incorporated into our 10-year capital plan, these projects were all identified. Costs have gone up. We've been able to utilize the ARPA money in a little bit different way. We were at one point in time kind of looking at using that for the water and the infrastructure, because that was kind of what was required at the time by the feds. That has now changed. Their final rulings, they opened up a little bit more flexibility. There was the opportunity at one time that you, how it was written before, is that you could do and recognize a loss in revenue. We really didn't have a lot, a loss of revenue, but there was a long, lengthy calculation that you would have to do to be able to come up with that revenue loss. In their final ruling, they allowed a $10 million, up to $10 million one-time. If you're underneath that, you just take that loss. So, we're anticipating of getting a little over $1.3 million. We'll take that loss. Which that allows us to do is we don't have to be restrictive on the water components of the project. We can actually shift it to the street components of it, which then holds that amount that we levied. So we're not going to have another impact on our residents in taxes coming into 2023. In addition to that, we've got a fantastic partner as our financial advisor in Baker Tilly, particularly Michaela. And Michaela is online if we do have some additional questions for her that she can answer. She certainly will do so. But we were going out, we're looking at a maximum of $12 million for street reconstruction. What's in front of you now and what we're looking at is almost $10 million. It's pretty close to a split. We're looking at, I believe it's 4.6 of street reconstruction, and then 5.4 that will be utility revenue bonds. So by doing this, in addition to that, Michaela also identified that if we can keep this underneath $10 million, and which will be underneath there by $5,000, it ends up becoming bank qualified, which actually gives us a little bit lower of an interest rate. What does that mean? It means over the 20-year period, it can save us an additional $300,000. So we're going to take advantage of that. What it means for us is that we have to put up front an additional $135,000 to bring us down underneath that $10 million, which again, my recommendation is that we move forward with that. And so the bonds have been structured to go down that path. So really, this is a real good news type of story. It's nice to see where we can have a plan, and even through some adversity of inflation and everything else, and we're taking advantage of still historically low interest rates. We're able to do the right things. We're not giving up anything at this point in time in any of our designs or any of our plans. We're not compromising anything. I know when I was here just the last meeting, I think it was on the 5th, one of the concerns that the city council had raised is that we somehow have a tendency of, I'll use the phrase, kicking things down the road. But here we're taking care of everything that we had identified to date. So that's another good news. So I'm not going to go through all of the detail. We know what the projects that we've identified. It's a 20-year bond. We've got pretty constant levies that we're going to have. It'll range from approximately $316,000 a year to $313,000, so it's pretty level. We're looking at approximately a 2.8% interest, true interest cost on these bonds. We're taking right now the bonds have been structured at 30 points over the current interest rates. We're still a little, concerned of, is that going to be enough? In the last week, they've gone up 8 to 10 basis points. So I think we think we'll be close. Even if they go up a little bit higher, we should still be underneath our levy amount. But we'll know a little bit more when the sale goes out. The sale should be May 17th. We have some more documentation to put together. We'll have a call rating in early May. And I think we're set. Our advisors, Baker Tilly, also concurs that what they're seeing is that they believe, especially with the feds looking at increasing interest rates to combat inflation, that we'll see higher interest rates. So us being out now and early is for the city's benefit. And they are saying, stay the course, go out and sell. So if there's any specific questions, I certainly would take those. There is a resolution in the packet that does need to be passed to set the sale date.
Any questions for the finance director? Good presentation.
It's exciting. It really is. It's nice to see a plan come together. And this gentleman to my right will kick off the next item, and so far, he's only delivered good news. So, is that trend continuing?
And rates are going up.
No!
Okay. You're the second part, so we need to pass the resolution first so that, and I believe the resolution is providing for the competitive negotiated sale of $9,995,000 in general obligation bonds. I believe that's the motion. Is
So
that
moved.
correct, Finance Director? Okay. So moved by Councilmember Thorson,
Second.
second by Councilmember Wong. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Turn it over to City Engineer Morgan Dolly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This next item on your agenda here is consideration of something that was previously discussed by council. This is a joint project with the city of Maplewood that contemplates roadway improvements on Ariel Street from the south cul-de-sac just north of Highway 36 all the way up to 17th Avenue. It is a city street on the border of North St. Paul and Maplewood. The city limits actually goes right down the center of the road. So the road ownership responsibility is 50-50 between North St. Paul and the city of Maplewood. In this instance, as previously discussed by council, the city of Maplewood is the lead agency, meaning they're the contracting agency. They have gone out for bids. And the action item for consideration here in front of council is twofold. So number one is to review the bid results that Maplewood has received and to concur with one of two options. So there are two alternates built into the Maplewood project for the improvements to Ariel Street. Bid alternate one is basically just kind of the base bid, which is the improvements to Ariel Street. As I mentioned, in that area, as part of the North St. Paul portion, we do have some City of North St. Paul water main, which needs to be replaced, so that's also a part of bid alternate one as a base bid. And then bid alternate two, which as requested by City Council, included the addition of sidewalk on the east side of Ariel Street. Now, originally, it was discussed that sidewalk would be contemplated between 11th Avenue and 17th Avenue. Through some subsequent meetings with residents, with public works staff, myself, I was out there. It was observed that actually pedestrians, specifically students getting off the school bus at the intersection of 11th Avenue and Ariel Street, actually walk south on Ariel Street as well, between 9th Avenue approximately and 11th Avenue. And so we just included some sidewalk in that two-block piece as well, just to see, you know, as the prices came in, if we wanted to consider sidewalk, or if council wanted to consider the full sidewalk, it would actually, as proposed here and as priced here with the bid, would be on the east side again from 9th Avenue to 11th Avenue, continuing through 11th Avenue all the way north to 17th. So just a little clarification on the sidewalk there.
We don't have a visual, do we, map?
I don't, no. We just had a map previously. I can actually, if it's important, I can certainly bring that up. At any rate, I'll keep discussing the bids. What I can report is that the bids came in favorably. There were only two bids, which that was interesting. I had a conversation with the Public Works Director at Maplewood today. He didn't have any information as to why only two bidders. The low bidder that is being considered for award on the project, whether or not North St. Paul moves forward or not with bid alternate one or alternate two. And I should mention the city does have the option of giving direction on not awarding either alternate. That is a third option here on the table. But the low bidder is local contractor T.A. Shifsky and Sons. You're all familiar with their work. Obviously, they've worked on several North St. Paul projects over the years. And so They would be the anticipated awarded contractor a week from yesterday at the Maplewood Council meeting. As I mentioned, the bids were favorable. The results are in your packet here, and I guess I should mention, as I'm working on a map here, the two alternates in terms of what is presented in the table in the memorandum, that's the total cost. And so the low bid for bid alternate 1 was $721,785.75, and bid alternate 2, so with the sidewalk, was $918,985.65. Now, below that, I've provided a little bit more detail in terms of the cost participation split between North St. Paul and Maplewood. Obviously, Maplewood has some responsibility for the roadway portion. North St. Paul would carry the responsibility for half the road, plus our water main. And for the sidewalk alternative, which is alternate 2, the sidewalk would be 100% North St. Paul responsibility. So those costs, so not what would we be awarded, but at the end of the day, when everything was constructed, and we would use actual construction costs to actually finally settle up at the end. Maplewood would pay the contractor up front, and we would reimburse them after the project. But North St. Paul's costs, construction only, range from just over $531,000 for no sidewalk, just over $728,000 for the version with sidewalk. Both of those are below estimates. If you add in contingency and indirect as contemplated within the capital improvement plan and the bonding program that you just heard about from the finance director, Winnick, it's about 8 to 9% below kind of our projected costs for both of those, right? And so we've always planned for a worst-case scenario with the sidewalk, but it is up to council to decide at this meeting. We need to give direction back to the city of Maplewood. Do we move forward with sidewalk or without sidewalk? But again, from a financing standpoint, there are funds available to fund the sidewalk version, even though that is more expensive by approximately $200,000. And then the second item for consideration within the council's packet here, and we just need a motion and a second, would be direction to execute the joint powers agreement that is in the packet. Again, that kind of defines the particulars with this arrangement. It's very similar to past joint powers agreements that we've had with the city of Maplewood before on the 2016 Street and Utility Improvement Project and the 2018 Street and Utility Improvement Project. Those were projects where North St. Paul was the lead agency, and they were paying for portions that were their responsibility of shared roadways. So this is same situation, very similar agreement, but they are the lead agency, and we'd be reimbursing them. I apologize, I don't have a map and I don't have a great way to pull it up because I'm not logged on to the Zoom meeting, so I apologize for that shortcoming on my behalf. But again, in review, in terms of location on the sidewalk, we're talking about the east side of Ariel from 9th Avenue, which is south of 11th Avenue, all the way north to 17th Avenue, which is where there is sidewalk actually to connect to, which would take people east-west on 17th Avenue into Maplewood to the west towards White Bear Avenue, and also to the east, that would be on the north side of 17th Avenue. You can get to Casey Lake Park that way. So with that, I know that's a mouthful, but again, there's kind of two combined things here for council consideration. Award or tell Maplewood whether the preference for North St. Paul is to award neither alternate 1 nor alternate 2, alternate 1 which is aerial improvements with no sidewalk, or alternate 2, which is aerial improvements with the sidewalk, and then again, authorization for staff to execute the joint powers agreement with Maplewood, subject to minor edits that the city attorney might have non-substantive. If there was something substantive, we would bring that agreement back. But I'll stand for any questions the council might have at this time.
Does the sidewalk, is that part of our plan? Is that part of our strategic plan?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, so in the comprehensive plan, there is an identified pedestrian improvement, not defined specifically like sidewalk or trail or whatever, but the section between 11th Avenue and 17th Avenue is identified on mapping within the comprehensive plan for potential improvements. We've discussed this before in that when a street is reconstructed or fully reconstructed, we might start looking at all sorts of different modes of transportation. How can we, how might we add different things? This was originally contemplated as more of a rehabilitation project, just reclaiming the streets. Obviously, we have some water main to attend to as well. So we hadn't gotten to that point. But again, based on feedback from the council, that was something that you all wanted to look at, see what the pricing would be, how that might fit within budgets, and so that's what's before you here tonight.
You said that the neighbors were not in favor of the sidewalk? They thought the traffic?
No, at the neighborhood meeting that we had held, and I think I presented on this previously to council, we had not a significant amount of opposition to the sidewalk. There were, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but there were some people that, were for it, some people that were not for it, but nobody was specifically really vehemently against it. As I recall, we did talk about snow removal and how within current ordinance, it's the responsibility of the homeowner, or at least we mentioned that. I should also mention that, at those meetings, not everybody shows up, but, that is by invitation, and that's where you learn more about the project, right? We did also have some people in attendance that, at that meeting that lived at on some of the side streets, like Flanders, and I want to say 13th Avenue, maybe even 14th Avenue, that had indicated that they would be in support of a sidewalk, even though that wasn't their street or where they lived, but they had said, yeah, that would be helpful, or I would use that, or I walk on the shoulder or the side of the roadway now, and so they seem to indicate support for that type of an improvement.
Any other questions for Morgan? Councilmember Thorson?
I'm assuming the sidewalk's concrete?
That's correct,
Okay.
yeah. And we've designed it at a thickness so that, should it need to be, maintained by heavier equipment, it would be able to handle that.
And absent of the map, when you're talking about the east side, you're talking about the North St. Paul side, correct?
Correct.
Does the cost increase or decrease if it's on the Maplewood side, on the west side?
It might be marginally less only because there's fewer driveways, but I think, similar dimensions, similar makeup and concrete versus other materials, it would be pretty close to the same.
And the reason I ask that, I think this is a road that is a candidate, obviously it's in the comp plan, and we're trying to improve, walkability and transportation, make things safer. And I look at the map and I count 14 residences on North St. Paul that are impacted. And on the other side of the road, there's 6 plus the townhome development on the corner of 11th and 17th. So from just a impact perspective, if we're gonna do this and we're placing the burden on the homeowner to clear the snow, and I understand now this is on Maplewood's side, so they could just say, no, we're not doing this. Even if we're saying, well, we're gonna pay for it, they could still say no. It would make sense to me that if we're gonna make this change, we advocate for the sidewalk on the west side because it's having an impact on the least amount of homeowners. Now, there's this large stretch of sidewalk that abuts to, I don't know what that's considered a swamp or if they consider that a park, but there's no one there in Maplewood. And so the question comes, well, how does that snow get removed? But that's not unique to other areas in North St. Paul where there's large sections of sidewalk that aren't tied directly to a homeowner or a business. I think that somehow it gets taken care of. But I'm just kind of curious if if that idea has been discussed with Maplewood at all, about what if we put it on your side? I mean, have they been receptive to that, or is that a no deal, or?
Councilmember Thorson, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So that has been discussed with staff. I don't recall if that was based on past discussions with the city council, but I did bring it forward with engineering public works staff at City of Maplewood, pointing out that fewer impacted properties or residential properties, driveways, there's kind of that big pond or whatever that is, wetland there. And they indicated that they would look at it and basically, the feedback that I got, or the impression that I got, is that it was a North St. Paul kind of requested amenity, and there wasn't really a lot of interest in terms of making it a City of Maplewood amenity. And so we moved forward with this plan, at least for design and bidding, knowing that we'd be able to present something to you all that would represent, a pedestrian facility. That's not to say that if no sidewalk alternate was awarded here tonight, or that guidance was given to the City of Maplewood, there could be further discussions that go on that, I don't know, could be years down the road. Like a sidewalk could be retrofitted into Ariel Street in this area as a standalone project. I guess I couldn't say whether or not we'd receive as favorable prices, right? I mean, things might get more expensive as time goes on, but that, if council wanted to enter into discussions with Maplewood to try to convince them to put it on their side, that's certainly a possibility. But I would not be able to predict whether or not they would be open to that, knowing that we had already kind of pointed out some of the potential benefits. I think they certainly heard what we were saying, but, they didn't move on that at all.
I think that happened on Holloway. They wanted it on the Maplewood wanted it,
Yeah, okay, yeah, I think, yeah.
so, yeah, I don't think it'll happen if we decide to have them put it on their side. I don't think they'll do it.
Well, I mean, it's a negotiating thing, right? If you don't ask and you just assume and you don't push back, but, and I'm assuming then on the east side, I grew up on the home on the corner of Ariel and Flanders there. It's kind of like a hill. Is the road, I'm assuming, is going to be narrowed a bit? And that sidewalk on that stretch, is there going to be like a requirement to build a retaining wall? Or, I mean, we've seen that where if that side of the road's picked, just the topography where you can't avoid it, you gotta, incur. So, I mean, that's kind of, is that something that's a part of this plan, or is that not meeting that?
That was actually at least one of the resident meetings that I had. Someone who wanted to learn more about, where would this sit and how might this affect the area behind the sidewalk. And so, again, to very kind of purposefully or intently, I guess I would say, the design of the sidewalk is, in this proposal here, is to go in that 4 or 5 foot striped shoulder. Okay, so that's a edge of the road there. I think that shoulder's probably been striped for, I don't know, a generation, right? But you can't park there, so it's not like we'd be removing on-street parking. But it seemed like a logical place where we can meet all of the required standards for the road, the lane width, that sort of thing, and not have to get into moving power poles or building retaining walls. I mean, we might need to do a little bit of minor grading on the backside of this sidewalk, but the backside of this particular sidewalk between 11th Avenue and 17th Avenue would sit basically where that striped shoulder is. So the back of the walk is approximately where the back of the existing curb is, if you can visualize that. So not a significant widening into the slope or into people's front yards.
Okay, so essentially it's losing that shoulder that's striped. The sidewalk will be within that, and, okay. So, because I mean, when I look at this, obviously sidewalks are controversial. This clearly is an area that we've highlighted, one should go in. I'm not against the sidewalks, I just think it makes more sense to put it on the other side of the road. But, you know, it takes two to play ball here, and naturally Maplewood's gonna wanna say no, but in this case, we're gonna pay for it. So was that the question, is it saying, well, we want a sidewalk here, but we don't wanna pay for it, put it on your side? Or was it communicated like, hey, it makes more sense to go on your side and we will pay for it, and they're still saying no? Cause then the question is, well, we don't wanna maintain it. Well, you know, we have a partnership in maintaining this up at Silver Lake, the aerator. I mean, it's not on our property. It's Maplewood's. It's in their property. But the county doesn't want to deal with it, the watershed doesn't want to deal with it, Maplewood doesn't want to deal with it, and we said, well, fine, we'll deal with it. So, I mean, that's just, part of our job is also to negotiate for the best interests of our residents and the community, and to me, it just kind of seems like,
I did.
okay, okay. And they still just said, it's the maintenance issue?
We didn't get into maintenance,
Okay.
but if the sidewalk were in the city of Maplewood, and I believe they have a similar ordinance in that, if it were in front of a residential property, their residents would have to, remove snow, and in the area that is adjacent to that wetland, I think that's, maybe city-owned property, that would either have to be maintained by the city of North St. Paul or the city of Maplewood. We never got to that point.
Okay.
But, in terms of within the confines of like this joint powers agreement and actually getting it done, even if it was on the west side of the road, I did say, well, what if we paid for it? And, yeah, we moved forward with what we have in front of you here tonight.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Morgan? So we have, I guess we have two alternates, and we have to decide on which alternate, one or alternate two. So is there?
Or neither. I mean, so they have the ability to not award anything, but then that, I guess, wouldn't address any of the road improvements or the water main improvements that certainly we've identified that are needs within the community.
So the first, I guess, motion would be alternate number one, aerial with no sidewalk. Is there a motion for that? Number two would be bid alternate number two, aerial with a sidewalk. Is there a motion for that?
So moved.
Wow. So moved by Councilmember Cole, second by Councilmember Wong. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. And then the second motion we have, so is that what you needed? So,
For that one, yeah,
Yep,
and then
and then
I would
the-
just make sure to, in your motion, include subject to minor non-substantive edits by the city attorney as kind of proposed for the action, if that's acceptable, yeah.
add that to the motion?
For authorization for staff to execute the joint powers agreement, sure.
I was going to do that as a second motion.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay. So the second motion is a joint powers agreement between the City of North St. Paul and Maplewood for 2022 Jarvis Area Pavement Rehabilitation Project, including aerial street improvements between the cul-de-sac and 17th Avenue East, City of Maplewood project number 2107, and City of North St. Paul project number 22-03.
So moved.
So moved by Councilmember Thorson, second by Councilmember Peterson. Is that the right motion you want? All those in favor, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Morgan and Dan. Appreciate it. Anything else, city manager, if you're out there and anything? Okay.
No, sorry, I do not have anything else.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, We have, so no reports of the city manager and departments, reports of council commissions and committees. Councilmember Cole.
I just have one quick one. We met, EDA met on 4/2. Primary discussion was, we reviewed parking and green space in the open lot that it currently exists. I don't have the address on 7th, but it exists between Sidewinders and the tattoo parlor, where the building had been torn down several years ago. And it's just kind of been a dirt parking lot per se for some period of time. And the EDA decided it was time to make it pretty. So we looked at 3 parking options and 3 green space options, and I think they came to a consensus as to kind of what they were looking for to push back for someone. Was it WSB that was going to sketch it back up? I can't recall. To move forward with that. That's all I got.
Good. Councilmember Wong.
Yeah, the Planning Commission met the 1st of this month. They're wrapping up the sign ordinance. It's been a long journey, so it's looking really good. There's a one-pager for business and patio, or businesses that will be developed for, a one-pager about the patio furniture for the businesses, so they kind of have an idea of, some of the direction suggestions we have for the furniture,
So is
like
that-
commercial grade.
Is that put together already, or it's coming to council, or?
No, I think it's in the works by staff.
Okay.
We also discussed the wayfinding plan and how it needs to be updated. I think that's part of the park's next move. So they also discussed planning priorities for the year, and we also had an applicant for the Planning Commission, so that's nice to have someone back on there. And then our next meeting is Thursday, May 5th. As for the Arts and Culture Commission, we had interviews yesterday to fill a position. We had 3 people come, and very passionate, very excited, and very good candidates, so looking forward to that as well. The Art Cart is coming to North St. Paul again. You'll see it at the Music in the Parks as well as the car show. And we saw some drafts of the downtown banners, and so there's a couple options that were thrown on the table, and they're gonna take another look at it, and maybe we'll see that coming down the pike. And then the next meeting is on May 4th at 6:30 here in Sandburg. Thanks.
City manager, did you have something to add to this? It looked like you, nope, okay. Councilmember Peterson.
Yeah, I just wanted to express my thank you to Morgan Dwally. He did a very nice job at the Business Association last weekend, or last Tuesday, and it was very informative. I had people come up and say, yeah, it was very succinct and really knowledgeable that you know your stuff, and so I did send him a thank you card, and his boss.
Did he keep it under 2 hours?
Oh, it was short. I think it was the shortest speech ever. Oh yeah, you weren't there. No, it was
I gotta
within
give
a
you a hard
half
time.
hour. It was within a half hour, so well done. Otherwise, I don't have anything else, thanks.
Councilmember Thorson?
I have nothing, but I do have a question on the arts and culture. One of the items was their apparel design, and there appears to be an image, like a silhouette of a different type of snowman. And I thought that we had pretty strict guidelines on the use of our city logo, and that type of thing isn't allowed. I can't remember the terminology. I think it actually was in a previous arts and culture commission agenda, but they had kind of a design guide on how to use the logo, and that you're not to modify the snowman, and there is only certain colors. Is that ringing a bell for anyone, or?
I think when we redesigned it, I think there was restrictions on it.
Yeah, so it was like, you you can't, you know, like the Parks Commission can't take the logo and then change it and say, this is the North St. Paul Parks and Rec, and use a different logo, and then, you know, there were certain ways that you can use the letterhead. There was things like that, but I think they had specific direction, and we voted and approved this. It's policy. I can't remember the name of the policy, but it was that the logo of the city is not to be manipulated and changed. Like, you don't put a pumpkin on the head of the snowman or something, you know, things like that. And if you're doing apparel, that's great, but I don't, you know, to design your own logo, I don't think that's consistent with our current guidelines. And if that needs to change, I think we need to amend or change that policy that we have saying you can't stray from the logo. Because that's our official logo.
Right. I was not aware that they're changing the snowman.
It was more for using T-shirts to kind of promote the commission because it is new. I don't know where we're at in terms of approving those or moving forward with that or a budget, to my knowledge. We can certainly take a look at those logos and
I was gonna say that.
the guidelines and policies around them.
You might want to bring that back to the commission.
Yeah, there was some, and I want to say it was in a previous Arts and Culture Commission where I saw that, where it was that topic item, and I think it was it was the banner guide, okay? Maybe that's where it was. Okay, so here's what I'm talking about. It's like a guide with all the official, the North St. Paul logo, official use guidelines, and they're saying you don't, you know, this image has it depicting like he's holding a baseball bat, and I don't know if you can kind of see that. They're zooming in here, or I can see it on the TV, but it's, you know, they're saying you can't modify the logo, adding a baseball bat and a baseball cap. I mean, it could be because we're promoting North St. Paul youth baseball, but I mean, this is an official policy that we've adopted. It's usage guidelines. And that seems to be straying. So if you're gonna use it as an official city, you know, the Arts and Culture Commission, City of North St. Paul, that seems to be in violation of that. If it's not official and it's just you guys are, you know, gonna do something on your own, I don't know if that falls into that, but I just
We'll
thought.
take a look at it. Thanks.
Okay. General business, anything else, Councilmember Thorson?
Nope.
General business, Councilmember Cole.
Nothing at this time.
Councilmember Wong.
Nothing, thanks.
Councilmember
Well,
Peterson.
we've got the cleanup. The Silver Lake cleanup is the 23rd of the month, which is Friday. Silver Lake, we'll use anybody. They're going to have probably bags and gloves. So come on up. I don't know, is it 9 o'clock, Carrie, or 9:30? Okay. And the citywide cleanup is April 30th, so get your junk and get it down to the Public Works. They're going to have it really slick this year, and we'll take as much as you have, I guess. And then the citywide garage sale will be May 5th to the 7th. It's $10 to get a sign. You'll be advertised, and it's always good to clean out your closets and garage. So keep the city clean. Thank you.
Councilmember Thorson.
Just general question, the city manager's still here now, but I think it was at the last council meeting, I asked about the trash and everything along like the Burger King kind of side entry way, and there, you know, I don't know if code enforcement had a chance to follow up, but I was there again today, and it's just as bad, if not worse. And there also now is it's private property. There's a huge snow pile there. Someone's clearly dumping snow, and there's garbage all over. So, you know, we've had these high wind events. I think it's still kind of locked into that snow, but eventually, you know, it's a concern that stuff's going to be blowing into the state trail and onto the highway. Has code enforcement been able to reach the property owners and make them aware of that concern, or?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Thorson, I did bring that to the attention of code enforcement the following day after the council meeting. I didn't get any follow-up. I don't know where we're at on that.
Okay.
I'm sensitive to that too. You know, that Gateway Trail is really the windows into North St. Paul for a lot of people. And so, you know, I'd like to make sure we're keeping it clean. So I will check in on that with code enforcement tomorrow and try to get you an answer.
Okay. Otherwise, when's the cleanup day? The 30th. Okay, so I will be there on the 30th with my, I will be there on the 30th with my dump trailer, and anyone wants to help loading that stuff up, bringing it to the city cleanup then if it's not resolved, because otherwise, you know, there's no point in, there's been enough time. I believe that private property owner, at least on the tax statement, lives in Texas or something, so I'm sure they're not gonna do anything, so that's all I have.
Okay. And I've got, from the consent agenda, we've got the Fallen Angel grand opening, which is May 21st, between 3 and 10 p.m. It's kind of funny, they put on the application, no fireworks. So last year when they did the application, they had accidentally put fireworks in there, and there was a big concern. We actually went and talked to Gabriel, and he said, no, we're not doing fireworks. But in the application, it said he was doing fireworks, and we weren't sure where he was actually going to light off all those fireworks over there. So it's not going to happen. No, there's not going to be any fireworks. But he does have a grand opening May 21st between 3 and 10. And then Max Diner, getting excited for that. The grand opening celebration is Friday, July 8th and Friday, July 15th. Sounds like two of the car show nights. And it'll be in the resident parking lot. They're going to have a live band. And it'll be between 6 and 9 p.m. That's all I have. Anything else? Last minute? If not, John, I don't know if you know this or not, but you had little spots on your head from the TV screen. We have a little something going on with our computer, so there's little spots all over the screen. So not only you're sick, you got little spots on your head. So, so a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Peterson, second by Councilmember Wong. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Adjournment.
Done by 8:12.
8?